Hey guys, the Common Man here. So I've got what's going to be probably a pretty short video today, but I wanted to give, it's kind of a two-part review, I guess. First, it's going to be somewhat of a long-term review of this knife right here, which is the Hogue Deka. This is the Magnacut version that came with the polymer scales, and also of the OG, the original GOAT scales. So I didn't own it for very long. With the polymer scales on it, I had plans on swapping them out with something a little bit nicer pretty early on, and you know, that's pretty much what I did. I had this knife for probably a month, maybe 2 months, something like that. I don't know. You could probably see the timeline on my channel, but I owned it for a bit with the polymer scales, and honestly, I really did not mind them. The G10 might have been a little bit nicer, but you know, I just decided I'd save the money. I'd get the Magnacut, which I kind of prefer anyway. And you know, while we're talking about it, let's get out this sweet sticker. That thing is so cool. But yeah, I wanted to save the money by getting the polymer scales, so I figured why not get the most basic version with the blade steel that I actually kind of prefer, the Magnacut. And then because you know, I had plans on putting new scales on it anyway. I was specifically looking at the OG, the original GOAT scales. So basically, you know, I'm very, very happy with this knife. I was very happy with it out of the box. It had an incredible action, overall ridiculously good build quality. You know, there was just rock solid, no blade play, very, very good. Like I said, very good action, very smooth, very fidgety. And the polymer scales really surprised me. They weren't as cheap as I thought they were going to be. They didn't feel, they you know, when you kind of tapped on them and rubbed your hand against them, you could tell they were plastic, but I don't know, something about them, I just didn't mind it that much. The flex didn't seem too terrible. In my opinion, it kind of didn't even seem quite as bad as the Benchmade, oh geez, the Benchmade bug out. So, you know, I can't say for sure. I haven't really gotten them both side by side, but just from what I can remember from the bug out, it just felt a little bit cheaper, just the scales in particular. So you know, I'm just really happy with this, and the overall product and the price was just ridiculous. I mean, I think I got it on sale. You know, actually, I can't remember. I think I paid $140 something for it, which might be the going rate. I don't know if I got it on sale or not, to be honest with you. But you know, that's a pretty good price compared to the Benchmade bug outs, $170 or $180 price range, and you're getting the Magnacut blade steel, which, in my opinion, that's kind of icing on the cake. You really can't beat that that value. But you know, like I said, early on I decided I'd go for these original GOAT scales. These are the original scales with this really cool texturing on it. And they are they're kind of milled out to make them a little bit more lightweight than just a solid slab of aluminum. And the overall result, I'm really you know, pretty happy with. However, I will say I did have one issue that I'm still dealing with right now, and that's kind of the action that you get when you install these scales. And it might just be my knife in particular. So basically, I put them on, the install went just fine, but no matter what I did, I was either getting blade play, side-to-side blade play, basically, or I was getting just a totally locked up action, basically just not free-falling at all. And you can see that this knife is actually still very, very stiff. I mean, when I pull this thing back, it doesn't even fall. You really got to give it a shake to let it fall. And the problem that I was having is when I would get this pivot tightened just right, where I was with no blade play and the action was relatively drop shutty, I was leaving these screws back here relatively loose, like I normally do, just to make sure that this gets locked up. And then once I get this set, I go back and I tighten the body screws. Well, as soon as I started tightening these body screws, I was either introducing blade play, because what I'm thinking is these scales were starting to squeeze in and bow out in the front. So I was going back and forth trying to do, you know, tighten here, tighten there. I was just a whole different combination of patterns. And no matter what I did, every time I came back here and tightened these backspacer screws, I was getting some kind of weird result in the pivot. And in all honesty, these backspacer screws are just snugged, almost to the point where I feel like I might need to go back and put Loctite on them, because they are just not super tight. And this thing, you can see, because I mean, for me, I'm pretty big on no blade play. You know, a tiny, tiny little tick left and right is not going to drive me too crazy. But the problem is when I finally got it to where the action was smooth, this thing was just, I mean, you could watch it go side to side. That's totally unacceptable to me. I don't like it like that. I'd rather have a solid lockup and a little bit of a stiff action. Now, I'm very hopeful and probably, you know, I'm probably a little too hopeful that, you know, eventually over time, maybe this will kind of break in and smooth up a bit and loosen up in the pivot while still maintaining that rock solid action. I really don't know if that's going to happen, because the problem is the majority of the pressure is being put back on the back of these washers, and then the front of the washers is where that blade play was developing. So, you know, I just don't really know if it's necessarily going to break in to a like a drop shutty action. But to be honest with you, it doesn't bother me too much on this knife. I really love it so much that I'm willing to put up with a little bit of a stiff action as long as it's just got a rock solid lockup. And just look at that. I mean, those green, I believe these are Cerakoted scales. They look so good. And another really cool thing we will check out is this knife weighs 2.1 ounces originally. That is, it's from the factory weight is 2.1 ounces, as I could tell from DLT's specifications on the knife. I haven't weighed it with the polymer scales, but like I said, I'll just go with the 2.1. So let's go ahead and see what it weighs with these aluminum scales. 2.79. Okay, so, you know, you're getting, what, 0.69 ounces over original. That's really not too bad. This is still, in my opinion, a very, very lightweight knife. And for the size, I think the weight is totally acceptable. Like I said, it did make it a little bit, you know, noticeably heavier. But again, this is still going to be a knife that I'm going to carry in, you know, the pocket of some lightweight pants or lightweight shorts, cargo shorts. And it does still kind of just disappear in your pocket. You really don't even notice it's there until you go to reach for it. And it just, man, it rides in the pocket so nice. This deep carry clip is beautiful. I've had no issues with it snagging on things. It goes in and out just fine, even up against this texture, which actually is somewhat grippy, but not overly grippy. So it's not going to rip up your pants. It just works really well. That thumb stud positioning is perfect. I mean, just absolutely perfect. You can tell even with that stiff action, it's still just rockets open without any issue. Reverse flick, thumb stud flick. Yeah, I just can't be happier with this knife, and I'm super happy I did what I did, buying the Magnacut in polymer and then replacing the scales after. Scales, I think, were right around the $70 mark. Not too bad, you know, for aluminum. I would have loved to get titanium, but I'm sure you're going to pay right about $100 or something like that. And I don't even know if original good, I'd have to check, but I don't even remember if they offered titanium version of these. But yeah, overall, guys, extremely happy. Love the knife, love the scales. I'm not totally pleased with the result in the action, but overall, I'm really not going to complain too much. It just is a sweet, lightweight, extremely useful EDC package that is going to continue to get a whole lot of pocket time. So I would do exactly what I did, guys. I'd buy that Magnacut version with the polymer, get a new set of scales, and this thing is just going to be a beast, and you are still going to be barely over $200, which is just, that's sweet. For this knife, that's perfect. But yeah, thanks, guys. I appreciate you watching. Hopefully this gave you a little insight into the knife, into the scales, and maybe helping you steer you in you know, whatever, I guess, direction you'd like to go in. But thanks for watching. If you want to see more of my videos, please consider subscribing. Thanks.